the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua, and today's question is: have you ever wondered how shifting your mindset can unlock superpowers in leadership? Well, Mike believes it's more than what we accomplish, it's who we become along the journey. Our guest today, Mike Vacanti, his mission is to help discover every individual's potential, embrace a growth mindset, and achieve at inspired levels. Mike has transformed businesses and inspired people to perform at levels they didn't think possible. Mike is known to move leaders and teams beyond perceived limitations. Mike is also the author of Believership, The Superpower Beyond Leadership, and co author of You Belong Here, Humans First Stories. There's a lot that we're going to unravel here today. But Mike, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Joshua, and I'm excited to be with you today. Thank you for having me on.
Mike, it's quite the I'm quite excited with a lot of the concept that you come up. I mean, first particularly with the humans first that you've done, emphasizing on seeing employees as humans rather than just resources. I love that concept. We love that concept here on the show. But before we really get into it, Mike, I want to know your story. Where did it all begin, right? The origins of Mike Vacanti. Where did you always know you were going to get into business leadership, organization, advisor, consultant? Did you always going to get into the industry where you are at now? Did you always know that you were going to write books and not more than that, write books about believing, unlocking your potential? What is the story of Mike Vacanti?
Well, thank you for opening that up. So, with this gray hair and decades of experience, it would be a long story. So, in summation, I can say that no, I did not know that this is a path that I would be on, that my journey would lead to many of the opportunities and the experiences that I was able to have. It was quite serendipitous through time, actually. I came out of college and went into the family sporting goods business, which I thought was going to be my career, Joshua. And I
Oh,
was in that for a decade, and that was all wonderful. It's a publicly traded company. I really thought that was going to be it for me. There was a corporate event through a merger and acquisition, a takeover that became unfavorable. So I'll save the story on that. But
okay.
so I'm now 29, 30 years old, and I'm needing to make a big shift, wondering if I'm going to stay in that athletic or sporting goods industry or do something different. I
Okay.
decided to go into advertising. I
Hmm.
was told you can't do that at your age. You don't have that degree. You don't have that experience. And at your age, it's a tough shift. Well, I was persistent over 6 or 8 weeks, and I got hired into an agency,
Hmm.
and then I got hired by another agency to take on one of the professional sports teams in town, take on their account. So I was back in the sporting goods world, but in a different capacity.
Hmm.
That went on for several years. I started my own marketing company. One of my clients, this was 8 years later, one of my clients had this small technology company. We
Hmm.
were able to get his offerings packaged up and get a huge contract with Target Corporation and a big initiative that they were using that technology to kick off. When we were putting that presentation together, I realized that we had the beginnings of something very exciting. It was right around 2000, I guess, and
Hmm.
the internet boom was happening. And we went out and raised some venture capital. And all of a sudden, I was a founder of an internet startup. And way out of my comfort zone. I was I
Wow.
was learning as I went, and
Mhm.
a year later, I was a keynote speaker at a messaging conference in London, and it
Right.
just kind of exploded. Once I got into that technology field, I loved it. And I went on to do 5 different mergers and acquisitions with
Wow.
major technology firms around the world. One of the firms was Japanese.
Mhm.
Um, Fujitsu is the name of it. Another one the last one was a China company called China Soft. So great experiences, great learnings, and I think being thrown into a leadership role when
Mhm.
chaos is
Mhm.
at hand with the mergers and acquisitions of big teams and big companies, that's where
Right.
a lot of my strong adult learning happened through that period.
Wow. I mean, Mike, first of all, you walked us through that journey in quite a smooth fashion. But I bet it was nothing close to smooth at all. Like you said, you were thrown into chaos. You had to learn along the way, and it unlocked this sort of leadership in you. And I'm very very interested, of course, in what came of it, right? Because this is like the culmination of all that experiences that you're going to share with us today. And again, congratulations on all the the achievements, and it's nothing. I mean, wow, 5 mergers and a lot of that, you know in your first time in tech, so to speak, like not really something that you are that familiar with, but you made it work. And share us, some insight behind that. Your concept behind believership, first of all, is fascinating. Can you share the story on how you discovered first this idea and what inspired you to develop it?
Yes, thank you. So the reason that there's 5 mergers and acquisitions in that story, Joshua, is
Hmm.
there was obviously an end to 4 of them, or there wouldn't have been the fifth one. And then right? And so
Hmm.
there's some down points in that story also. And
Of course.
and I think through the career changes
Hmm.
and the events that took place, and then the changes in my status and going and getting the next gig or the next job,
Yes,
um,
yes.
there's some loss and some heartache that goes through that, right? So there's
Right.
a resilience story in there and perseverance that I think becomes important. And
Yes, of
the
course.
reason I believe that's important to this story for me is I learned a lot about myself through those periods of time. When I was going through those um, transitions, I use nice words, but when I was going through those hard times, those transitions, um, there was the growth of empathy that I probably hadn't had previous to that.
Hmm. Hmm.
That helped me pay close attention to all of the people that I was just dropped in the middle of to lead, right? Their worlds were upside down. They were in kind of fear and chaos and probably had a little anger. So
Hmm.
getting people on board with the objective that we were going to try to accomplish as a team
Hmm.
really was a fundamental piece. And I didn't try to play a role. I didn't try to apply some kind of leadership method. I
Hmm.
just learned to show up the best I could, be as clear and transparent as possible,
Hmm.
and let people know that I'm with them.
Hmm.
I'm responsible for the output from all of us, and I want them to succeed.
Hmm.
And it took people a long time to come on board, but I let them do it in their own time.
Of
They
course.
had to develop their own trust. They had to find their own belief, and that's where those notions really came to light.
Hmm.
Then, after the fifth merger and acquisition, I was looking for what was next. It wasn't becoming clear what that next step would be for me.
Right.
I was much later in my career. So I decided to start consulting. I put together a high achieving team program and started
Hmm.
taking it out to technology service companies that had learned about or met or familiar with through the years. And from Intuit to large, global service companies. Um, and it was built on four guiding principles,
Okay.
and that was genuineness. So how we
Genuineness.
show up,
Mm-hmm.
um, awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know ourselves? Do we understand other people? Are we aware of the market and our
Mm-hmm.
objectives? And then vision and belief. Can you see it and
Vision,
can
belief.
you do it? So, are you present? Do you get it? Can you see it? Can we do it? And those kind of became the checkpoints, and the foundation for writing Believership.
Mike, I love, of course, that the inspiration behind that was the people.
Yeah,
Because these are uncertain times. I love that there's like, it's unsure, like what's going to happen to this merger. Am I still going to keep my job? I'm still going to be part of this. And it's, in some ways, it's unfair to them because they don't have complete control of the situation, right?
right.
And they all want to make a living. They all just want to keep a job. They just want to be part of something. And
Yes,
I think this is the first time I've ever heard of the concept of actually thinking about the people who are going through uncertain times. As so much so when it comes to mergers, when it comes to exits, it's always that big numbers, right? That big
right.
achievement, these companies and all that. It's their success, right? But no one really talks about the people behind that, the people who are living in uncertainty. I love that you have put that. I love that this is the inspiration behind leadership, believership rather. So
Right.
genuine. I love that genuine awareness, vision, and belief. I would love for us to talk about and piece this through a little bit, but also in your book, The Superpower Beyond Leadership, apart from the four message or the four checkpoints,
Yes.
can you provide? Okay, this is more of a personal question. What is the
Right.
core message you hope readers will take out of believership and apply in their professional lives? And can you let us know an example? I always love stories. A story that stands out to you of a time where you help a leader or a team achieve something they thought initially was impossible. How did believership come in there? How did any of your checkpoints come in there? I would love to know. I would love to kind of just piece through this.
Yes. Yes. So there is an example from the consulting side.
Hmm.
However, the one that I really like to share, Joshua,
Please.
because it's where I really learned that tool set for myself. I had, as done it four other times, and so I had confidence in what I was doing. But matching or merging together a Chinese culture and an American culture was very challenging. And
Hmm.
most of my team, I went to a different city. So I live in Minneapolis, but I was stationed in Seattle. So I took an apartment out there and was working out there.
Hmm.
Of the 38 people in my core team in the office, 34 of them were Chinese, were here on visas from China,
Okay.
and and um, and then we had the American company, which had offices around the country. And so it was very interesting because I reported back into China and spent a lot of nights in those calls with the Chinese leadership.
Okay.
And then technically, my boss was the United States CEO, and so I was kind of the rope in that tug of war. And
Oh
what
my.
I learned is that tension on that rope could never flow through to those I was, in charge of or trying to lead. And there was a lot of skepticism of this approach wouldn't work because they had never experienced it. And I
Mhm.
was very upfront saying, here's the way I believe things go. Here's the way I like to lead. I'm going to
Mhm.
get you engaged. Your voice is
Mhm.
going to matter.
Mhm.
Um, well, the engagement wasn't great at the
Mhm.
beginning. Um, so I spent the extra time. I stayed there after nights and I cleaned up the environment. I actually
Mhm.
built cabinets for the wiring that was hanging down. I organized and straightened out, areas of the office that were just like a computer dump area and a mess for some of the consultants. I
Uh-huh.
put a refrigerator in there. I built, um, kind of a hot desk system where people could come in and flow, and built social areas,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
um, and they saw me personally do the work. I didn't hire it. I wanted to show them that I'm going to do this with my hands, to the best of my ability, with my own time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think what that helped do is start to build some trust, that I was saying different things, but now I was acting differently than what they had seen before out of leadership.
Right.
And if nothing else, it created some curiosity. They started to believe what I was saying because they saw me do things. And that changed the dialogue completely. And eventually, they came in, asked for private meetings for me. They would present themselves and their career. I would ask them, why are you sharing this with me? Thank you for bringing me through all of that.
Mhm.
What's the purpose of sharing? Well, I've been here for 5 years, and this is the way that we were treated by management. And I
Wow.
never got a raise. I was never paid. The money always went somewhere else. And I said, great. With that knowledge, I'm going to do what I can to take care of it. And they said, no, no, you won't be able to. I know how our company works, and they won't let
Wow.
you. And I said,
Wow.
well, it's my budget now. It's really up to me. So I moved some other things around from other areas. I was able to consolidate some of our legal fees with,
Wow.
we had probably 70 active um, um, immigration actions at any one time. So I consolidated and organized a lot of I found the money in other areas,
Mm-hmm.
and rewarded the people. Well,
Wow.
they started believing in what we were doing. Communication opened up. They started coming back to the office, having better relationships. We were having great sharing. They then wanted to do more with the office. We had a painting party, and all of a sudden,
Wow.
people believed in what we were doing. Now, here's the kicker on that. When
Okay.
I came in, it was February, so the year was already in play. We
Mm-hmm.
had a $35 million kind of nut, objective for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told at the beginning, look, you're coming in late. The transition's been difficult. We're already behind. Don't worry about the number. Just do the best you can. Well, we approached things way differently. And I got everybody telling me what the concerns were. I went out and met all of the 170 consultants
Wow.
that were working out in the clients at Microsoft and elsewhere. And we ended up having great success getting to the number.
Okay.
So we met the number because each person overperformed on their
Wow.
objective,
Wow.
because they wanted to and they believed they could.
There you go.
And
There you
and
go.
that's where, above everything, it's because they believed they could, and prior they didn't believe
They did
they
not.
could. And it's like, that's the difference for the whole thing, is they wanted to and they believed they could get it done.
Wow. First of all, Mike, what a story. I love this story because uh, this is something that I've adhered to, that my mom taught me a long time ago. And she said, she would always say, as above, so below. And the story that you told us is because he started in such a way that you did the work yourself. You know, hands on, you didn't ask for anybody's help. And you said, like you said, part of your four checkpoints in the believership is genuineness. You were genuine from the get go, a genuine leader. Like, hey, I'm gonna get things done. I'm gonna fix it all up. You know, I want you guys to make sure that these are our goals. It's gonna be up to me. I'm here to help you guys. You're making them aware, and you're also giving them the vision of where you want to be. And I feel like all of this genuine leadership that you showed them allowed them to believe in the situation, and in turn believe in themselves, right? And now
Yeah.
that they believe in themselves, they got to do more work. They got to do more quality work, and work that they believed in as well. I love it. I love the story. I love how it comes together, and I love the way you told it because again, it's very emphatic. It's just very, yeah. It oozes empathy. You know, it puts the people together. It puts these people, these humans first, right? The
Yes.
people in the organization. And this, I understand, is one of your work as well with humans first, emphasizing again the importance of seeing employees as humans, not just resources. I want to ask how organizations start implementing this mindset in practical ways, but more than that, it must be a challenge getting people or organizations, big corporations, to to think this way because the nature has been, you know, we're our audience and listeners, everyone, we're no strangers to how employees are being treated, right? But
Yes.
I feel like there is a collective shift right now, and it's great to have leaders like you in this shift where we are putting employees first, humans first, which is one of your work. Talk to us about your work with humans first, and how do you overcome the obstacles and challenges of having organizations implement this mindset in a practical way.
Yes. So there's a lot to that with organizations. I'll start there and then roll
Please,
it into the humans first piece.
please.
Um, it, People have to be, each of us as individuals in a situation. I won't say others. I'm going to say me because it should be ongoing if I'm really living it and doing it well.
Right.
But when I'm in a group of, if I'm out at a Silicon Valley large technology company that most people in the world would recognize the name, and I'm
Mhm.
sitting down with their leadership team, and people have the personalities based on roles that you would expect, right? So a
Right.
CFO, the accountant, financial
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
we have a stereotypical thought, and sometimes that's true. And in this case, it kind of was, if you look at the dynamic of the human in the team. And when I started going through the exercises, I said, it's going to seem silly. And what I would like you to do is, just, I want you to mark on paper every time you kind of get kind of that look where you want to make the frowny face and shake your head, just like if you're driving on the highway and somebody cuts you off and you
Right.
kind of make this face. I
Mhm.
said, when I take you through these exercises, you're going to feel like somebody's just cut you off in the grocery line, they've cut you off on the highway, and you're going to get that face where you're shaking your head. And I want you to record that because it's going to happen. And I said, when you get to 10, raise your hand because then I want to open dialogue. Well, we went through and I'm probably 20 minutes into it, and nobody's raised their hand. It's like, I'm having a hard time believing that nobody has 10 check marks. And it was the
Mhm.
CFO raised his hand. He goes, I was at 10 minutes ago. And
Okay.
I said, great, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So we went through the 2 days, and there was resistance, but there was some breakthroughs too.
Okay. Okay.
Afterwards, the CEO came to me and he said, um, Steve was the name,
Mhm.
learned more in these 2 days than he has in the last 5 years. And I said, well, that's phenomenal to hear. Thank you. But why do you think that? And he looked at me, Joshua, and he said, because Steve told me that.
No. Oh, what? Okay.
And so here's the
Oh.
thing is, at the beginning, we just simply broke down the walls on what we think is right and what we think is necessary and try to open our minds to what are some other possibilities?
Yes.
Are there ways that we can think differently that then start to change outcomes? And
Mhm.
when we do that, there's vulnerability in that, which then
Yes.
opens up room for relationships. And now
Okay.
people, while they want to challenge the other person, they're going to do it with more respect
Yes.
than just what I forced them to do at the beginning is kind of tighten up like this posture and shake their head.
Yep. Mhm.
We all do that when we're around familiar people that we worked with a long
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
I wanted to get rid of that and open it up, say, now we're vulnerable. We can challenge each other, but in a pleasant, respectful way. We're all going to try to expand ourselves. And
Mhm.
um, that's really fun. And the reason that leads to humans first is
Mhm. Mhm.
it became an opportunity just to go into rooms with groups of people that were self-selected. We
Right.
opened up. It was an open invitation. We got together in 13 different cities. I brought in a few different speakers. We kicked off with just some topical ideas and then had a room full of open discussions with 50, 70, 100 people. And we were together for 3.5 hours, 4 hours maybe, and again, it was just this rich dialogue because we broke down the barriers and kind of invited people in to share. And there was some tremendous shares through that journey. Tears, people opening up to things they hadn't opened up to. It was beyond my expectations and actually humbling beyond description for me that I got to witness people being so brilliant and beautiful. They were operating from the heart. We kind of got out of the head and into the heart, and
Wow.
it was an amazing journey for like 3.5 years.
I mean, that's a beautiful story. I can imagine how much it would have been. It's what an achievement it would have been because it really starts there, right? Like allowing people to be vulnerable, allowing people to be human again, like to be human first, to be heard. Because when we feel heard, then we know to accept. We know to take in all that. We will know to take in criticism. We know to take in critique, but also we'll know to that the other people I interact with are humans just like me, right? The
Yes.
empathy grows, and then teamwork comes in, and then everything just will start flowing. And it really resonates to what you have done throughout your career as well. And I love that you are continuing to be the leader, the voice in this. I love that change. I always love when we talk about treating employees first and shifting that change in corporations and organizations.
And it
We're
really is a desire,
Yes,
right? So instead of saying, "Why are you complaining?" It's like, "Hey, tell me what's going on."
there you go.
Right. And so it's not this, I'm pushing at you and blaming, but it's just like, I really want to understand what's happening with you because I want to help. And if people believe that to be true,
Hmm.
they'll open up and share. And then we actually can help them, get their vision back, get their belief back.
Beautiful.
And once they do that, people will, as I, say in the things that you read in the intro at the beginning,
Mhm.
given the opportunity, people truly will amaze us.
That's
And by opening up and letting them be themselves and express themselves, that's when they have the opportunity to truly amaze us.
that's amazing because again, if you see them as a resource, you'd be like, stop it, just do it, stop complaining. But if you see them as like
You know what
genuine,
your job is, get it done.
yeah, exactly, right? But if you see them genuinely for who they are, then be like, hey, let me understand where you're coming from, and then we'll do this together. It allows people to believe in themselves more. They'll believe in you, they'll believe in the vision, they'll believe in what they do. It really shines through your expertise and your extensive experience in uh, transformation, Mike. Leading transformation, leadership transformation. Um, when it comes to leadership, we're talking about now the people, and as we try to start wrapping this up, when it comes to leadership, what, how do you help them face these the challenges when they come to these changes, right? Because so much so we've been talking about like how we're going to deal with the people. Now, how do you advise leaders to overcome these obstacles when challenge is coming, but at the same time, how do you see corporate leadership, or how do you see believership continuing to play a role into this in the future?
Right. I believe that it really is all about communication and a desire
Beautiful.
to value the relationship that we have with the people we're working with. So if I don't care about somebody, it's going to be very obvious to them. And when I look at an obstacle
Mhm.
and they look at an obstacle, I think we're looking at the same thing. It should be very
Yes.
clear. And
Yes.
often, if I ask them, it's not the same thing. They're seeing a different obstacle. And what's amazing is I can probably help them remove that, right? Because
Right.
I have a lot of experiences. And importantly, I care. I
Right.
want to help them remove that obstacle.
Right.
Matter of fact, if I know that something is an obstacle to them that I don't envision as an obstacle,
Hmm.
I then can let me get in front of you and knock all those down for you because I don't think they're real obstacles. But now that I
Right.
understand you see hurdles, I'm just
Hmm.
going to run ahead and knock them all down, and then they're not in your
Wow.
way.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
leadership, right?
That is leadership right there.
Instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, that hurdle's not even there; it's in your imagination," and that is the general way that people lead because they go off their own vision and they don't ask the other person for their vision. Imagine if we did that in our relationships. They wouldn't be good. Our friendships wouldn't be good. Our marriages would be a disaster.
Yes, of course. Of course. I mean, I love that. I love that, Mike, because communication, again, not just in work, everywhere. In marriages, of course, relationships. But I love that leadership is true communication. I adhere to that. It is the foundation really of all relationship. I love that you are sending or sharing that message with us and to the world and to us today here on the show. Mike, it's been great. I love the insight you are. The empathy shows, the genuineness shows. It just shines through. And it was such a pleasure to have you on, Mike. I'd love to give you this opportunity. Where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? Are you active on any of the socials? Where can we find your book, of course? And where can we learn more about Mike Vacanti?
Thank you very much. The book is on Amazon.
Hmm.
Both of the books are on Amazon. Me by name, Mike Vacanti Sr., or by title of the book. But more importantly, I love connecting with people. So please reach out on LinkedIn. Seems to be the easiest in the business setting. But
Right,
I'm also on Facebook, and I try to be responsive,
right.
especially on LinkedIn when I get an opportunity to meet you and build a relationship and have this wonderful experience that you provide for me today, Joshua. Thank you.
And well, you also provided that experience not just for me, to our audience and listeners as well, Mike. So it has been a pleasure, and the message behind believership and what you teach it resonates with our audience and listeners. We love topics like this. I personally love topics like this, and bringing on leaders like you, Mike. Thank you for coming on the show.
Is my pleasure completely. Thank you, Joshua, and congratulations for the rapid growth that you're having with the show. You're doing a wonderful job and a service for all of us. Thank you.
Mike, thank you so much for that. And, it means a lot because, there's a validation that all the hard work, it does pay off. And I love having messages and insights like yours on the show. It truly is a ride. It's a blessing.
Thank you.
Fantastic. To all our audience and listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you on the next one.
All right, so here's the thing, we try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.